Hey guys, what's going on? Barry here from Epic Cycles, and I'm joined today with Paul, also from Epic Cycles. We just got in these new suspension, rear suspension, front fork suspension that's supposed to be compatible with Light Bee X bikes, but as well as other bikes such as the Rerode, and I'm sure many other series bikes, maybe the E-Ride Pro,
Talaria Sting.
Talaria Sting, exactly.
And some mountain bikes too.
Yeah, so I'm going to get Paul here to I guess take a look, to open it up. This is the packaging. These are RFLOXAs. RFLOXAs. So let's I'll get Paul to open her up, take a look, give his first initial thoughts and impressions on both the front forks and rear suspension. So let's go. Let's hit it, Paul.
All right. Well, here it is. RFLOXA. Here's the unboxing now. Here's our manual that comes with it. There's a really nice complete checklist on it for quality control. It's nice to see that they put that effort into that as well for quality control. And under here we go. Here's our fork. Now it comes in the box semi-disassembled. So when you pull it out, it'll have everything pretty much ready to go except for the top clamp. So the top clamp's right there. Of course, when you do a full install, you'll be sliding that into place and then locking it down based on whatever distance your head tube is. Comes with a front axle too. So you got the axle there. It's a through axle, of course. And straightening it up. There's our fork.
It's actually a really nice fork. I like the look of it. It's got it looks like a gold in there. It's nice.
So some nice machining on it.
Yeah.
You know, they got your clamps down below here. Nice, large, easy to turn dials on it. You've got several adjustments on this fork, which we'll get into. You got your bumpers here you can align. Beautifully machined clamps on there. You're going to see a lot of CNC work in there. Nice angles on this, so you got great pinch on that, so that you're not having any sort of offset pinching where it's going to wiggle back off. They've anodized all the parts nicely to give it a nice finish, even the steer column that you'll probably never see again once you bury it into your bike. And we're going to talk about some of the features on this fork. So this fork is claiming a travel of up to 200. What do we got here? Whoops, that's not the one. We got a travel of 228 millimeters. That's almost 9 inches, or around 9 inches. That's pretty damn plush. I'm guessing it's going to easily do 8. You got 37-inch stanchions on it, or 37 millimeter stanchions, very robust. And I'm going to believe that it's going to be very easy to upgrade the springs, whereas the standard fork on a Surron, there is no adjustment or no upgrade on the springs because of the size of the springs. So for you heavier riders out there who are finding it too plush or bottoming out too often, here's one of your greatest solutions. So this fork's going to have quite a bit more adjustability than the forks that come standard on many of these bikes. So of course, on this you're going to have rebound and compression. And you got high-speed compression and low-speed compression. So you can really fine-tune the bike for the bumps and for tracking. When you're in the berms, you want something that's not going to dive in on you. So that's your low-speed setup, or I believe it's going to be your low-speed setup so it doesn't crush down. And your high-speed, it's going to be all those stutter bumps and washboard that you hit. It's going to float over that, keeping your bike nice and level and flat, and keeping your ride quality nice and smooth. And of course, maintaining control and stability. That's your fork. And we're going to be installing this on the Rerode bike in this case, and it's going to be tested, and you're going to see a test video coming up soon. So the features on this fork, pretty obvious. Quality of the build, I think, is pretty impressive. I like the extra 3 bolts that they put in there as opposed to just 2, sometimes 1 on some brands. And on the top they got your standard 2 setup. So really, really nice setup on that. Specifications are all in the manual. Typically what I just outlined is all you really need to know. So moving on from what you need to know, that's all outlined in the manual. I'm just going to show you some of the features on the fork itself. So our adjustments, up here you're going to have your rebound adjustment on the top. You probably are commonly know or familiar with many of them being down on the bottom. They've inverted these things. So there's your rebound up there. You've got your spring preload. Nice dials, easy to turn. So that's your spring preload to give it a bit more stiffness in the front should you need it. Down below, there's your compression adjustment. Again, really easy to turn. Just 2 fingers on that. And then there's an outer dial that you'll see does turn with the low speed compression. Your high speed compression's out here. So you're going to set up your high speed, and when you turn the low speed, you'll see that it doesn't influence the high speed compression dial. So when I turn the high speed, you're seeing everything turn, and then you'll roll back to the kind of tuning that you wish. That's all based on personal preference. You'll have to ride this fork in whatever conditions you ride it under, and then feel it out, see what you like. Remember that your fork doesn't always suit all conditions all the time. So with these dials being easy to access, something you don't like about the fork, you can change it right away. You're riding a different course or a different terrain on any given day, fine tune it for whatever ride you want. And making these adjustments easy is a nice touch, and the large dials make it easy to turn. So moving on from that, that's our fork. We're going to be installing this fork on a Rerode in this case. So it'll fit on Talaria Sting, it'll fit on, of course, the most famous Surron LBX. We're doing it on a Rerode. It also does suit some mountain bikes. This is a lightweight fork, and it is designed for lightweight motorbikes, and of course it'll handle downhill and freeride type bikes too. So that's our front end. Now we're going to go to the rear end. We're going to leave that there for a moment. Put this stuff off to the side. And now for the RFLOXA rear shock. So here it is. Here's the box for it. Again, you'll see the same quality control papers inside of that, outlining all of the checks that have been done. So you'll see little check marks all the way through. It's been signed off by somebody at the factory. And then you got a little certificate giving some officiality to it. Manual, of course, is in here too. All right, and now for the shock. So nicely packaged in a padded box. Here's our rear shock. We got a gas chamber on the top, or a piggyback, so for controlling the oil flow through the shock. This shock's going to have, in this particular one, is measured out at 260 millimeters eye to eye, or 10 1/4 inches, and it's giving you a stroke is going to be of 83 millimeters, so 83 millimeters of stroke. So that depends on the geometry of your frame. This one has to be designed for the Light Bee X, and it also happens to work well with the Talaria, and of course the Rerode. All of these bikes seem to follow the same sort of genetics in terms of the rear suspension setup. So when we're placing this into your bike with this piggyback, if your shock already has one, put it in the same configuration. If you just got a standard coilover with nothing, just remember that you got moving parts, so you don't want your swing arm or other linkages to collapse or crash into this, or this thing to hook up on something. It can be mounted upside down, it can be mounted vertical, backwards, whatever suits the geometry and the placement in your frame. Go into the features. Here's what this is coming with a 550-pound spring. You've got a coil adjuster, so you can set the preload. In this case, I can turn the spring when it's out of the box, and I can loosen up the coil. And there we have a loose coil. Of course, you don't want to ride a spring like that. And if you have that symptom on your bike right now, and you're noticing some weird clunkiness, it's probably because this little dial's moved away. So we're just going to preload it a bit. That way it's not moving, and we know it's firm. So that's at the most softest setting. And of course you can bring this collar down and put some more preload on the spring as you would on a front spring or a front fork, same preload type adjustment. This also possesses the same level of adjustability as the fork. So you're going to have a rebound adjustment on it, and you got a high speed compression and a low speed compression on individual dials. They're a little bit smaller, and as you can see, I'm turning the outer dial, and if I turn the inner dial, there we go. And you can hear the clicks, and that lets you fine tune, again, the high speed compression and low speed compression. It's a very sensitive system. It's definitely going to be for the experienced rider, or the rider who wants to experience more out of their bike. And you may not even notice what all the things that you're missing now because you haven't adjusted these things on your current system. But this takes it to the next level where you can take it a little bit further. Very robust design on it. Nice, very thick shaft. It's not some thin little, spindly little bit in there. Very well designed. The eye bolts, they're designed for the Talaria and the bikes that we're setting up now. But these eye bolts, these eye bushings, you should go to if you're doing it on another brand of bike, make sure that these spacings are the same as what came out of your fork originally. You don't want to compress, or you don't want to ram this thing in and spread anything out. It's a very precise fit. These things are available aftermarket. High-end suspension shops often have a variety of these, or you can use the ones that already came in your bike, because these fittings are typically standard throughout the industry. So there's your shock. Beautifully built, nicely set up. RFLOXA with logos all over it. And I'm going to be installing this thing onto the Rerode. So after this video, I'm going to be getting my hands dirty, and then pretty soon you're going to see it all the magic beginning up on the bike itself, and of course the ride to go with it. And I believe that pretty much is it. Again, the manual's there. Read the manual. It's actually well written. And of course, the suspension components. Take advantage of all of the adjustments on it. If you're not sure how to set up suspension, one of the best ways to experiment is to just leave everything neutral at the softest setting, everything wide open at 0, and take it for a ride. Put it through your berms, put it through some stutter bumps, go off a little bit of a jump, hit some washboard, and just feel out the bike. And then start playing around with the suspension. Rebound is going to adjust how fast your fork returns after it's compressed, and compression controls how fast and not necessarily how far, but how fast the fork will descend. When it's really soft, and you're hitting big bumps, it'll compress to the bottom rather quickly. If you're feeling that thud happening quite a bit, start putting some more tension on that and smoothing out those bumps. And then the high speed, low speed setup, again, you're going to have to feel that in 2 different ways. On stutter bumps, there's going to be one adjustment that you're going to set for how fast it responds to those bumps. And then when you go into a berm and the whole system starts to compress due to the G-forces you're applying it, that's the other compression adjustment that's going to control that. And a balance of those 2 things are going to give you the ride quality that you're looking for. And remember, that's on both ends of the bike. So critical. Everything to do with suspension is keeping your tires on the ground, keeping your bike under control, and keeping your ride more comfortable, so it gives you a better ride, more comfortable ride, and you can go the distance with more confidence. And I think that's all we can talk about right now, because the rest of it all comes to actually just nuts and bolts and taking it for a ride. So I hope that all helps you out, and you'll see the next part coming up soon.
Thank you, Paul, for the detailed overview of these the front forks and the rear suspension. I will certainly be enjoying that test ride myself, and looking forward to seeing the suspension rebuilt on this bike on our next video. Thank you. Take care.
We'll see ya.
epiccycles.ca